All right, Connor, we're already here. All we got to do is pull the pins out of the motor mount, get this thing. All right, so I've got a little information about the Camaro here that I found. Let me show you what I got. So I was messing with the engine, and supposedly I think it was supposed to be locked up. Well, I was trying to remove the balancer and use the bolts. There's three 3/8 style bolts, and you got that large 5/8 bolt that holds it on. And doesn't necessarily hold it on, it just kind of supports it because that presses on there. But anyways, I was going to take this pulley here off and put 2 long bolts in it, and that way I'd have some leverage on it after I oiled it. Well, I just tried to take the bolt loose and the motor spun. So obviously this thing isn't locked up. So what I did, I pulled this manifold off and had all that smog crap on it. I sprayed the cylinders and stuff, and now I'm gonna come over here and remove the driver's side manual because the distributor's out and there's so much sawdust and there's just so much crap. I wanna weed everything out and I just wanna start fresh with it. But I looked at this CUB casting number on it, and this is a 1975 350 engine, and it says it had a 4-speed on it at one time, so this is not the original engine of this car. Also, on the rear end codes and stuff, these 81s are kind of sketchy. I was trying to read through the cal tag, and there's not a lot of information on an 81 like there is the 78 and 79, but this, on these rear axles right there, I don't know if you can see it or not. Maybe kind of sketchy with that light, but on these axle tubes you have a code. Well, I looked at the code on this one, that 2PC, this is a 308 rear axle, and I can't find any information if it's got a positive traction in it, which actually for a 350 and a 3-speed transmission is actually the perfect gear for cruising, you know. You just want a good torquey V8 with it, and you know, you could get down the road pretty good, but at least we know what it's got. Because I figured it would have a 342 like your 78, 79. I don't know about the 80s, but most of the 78, 79s, if it had an automatic and a Z28, it had 342s. If it was a 4-speed like my old black one, well, both my old black Z28s, they had 373s from the factory. So not a you know, deal breaker or anything. I'm still super happy with it. But I think I'm going to pull this engine out and just kind of inspect it. And we may just put it right in the spot where the Blazer engine was and fire it up and see if it's any good, you know. If it's good, I'll clean it up, and I might change the heads and put a cam in it. I don't know, but details are sketchy at this moment, but I've only had it for 3 days, so.
Tomorrow you'll be on this one class.
So I removed the exhaust manifold, and I put some PB blaster in the cylinders, you know. But this thing, although it's moving, it's very, very tight, even with the plugs out. So it's very possible they've ran this thing out of oil, but there's some weird things on this block that the numbers, I mean, I've looked at it, it says it's a 75, but it has a hole for a driver's side dipstick, and then it's got the provision on the right side, which has got the passenger dipstick. So, like, that's kind of weird. I don't recall that I've ever seen one of those. So I think at this point what I'm going to do, because all I have is the torque converter, the bell housing, the fuel pump, and the motor mounts, I think we'll just pull this motor out and see. It's going to need to be inspected because it's either super, super dry and I can pre-oil it, but I'm really thinking if they've ran it out of oil, it's probably ruined the mains, the rods, chewed up the cam. I won't know until I look at it, but yeah, I think it's time. Let's just get this thing out. I might see if I can get Matt, since it's Monday evening, to come over here, remove this hood, and let's try to get this engine out, man. So, any other time, I've been messing with this about an hour and a half, and I would have already had this out, because all I had was the motor mounts, the fuel pump, torque converter, and the bell housing. I've just now got the torque converter, one bell housing bolt out, but On the torque converter, I broke my ratchet that I had because this stuff is unbelievably over tightened. Like, I'm afraid the threads are going to be coming out of it. Like, I don't know how they got this stuff this tight, but I might have to take the transmission out with it because I can't get the bell housing bolts out and I can't get the proper leverage. And oh my God, that stuff's tight, man. But I got a big old knot on top of my head now because when that broke off there, my head hit one of these little dollies on the edge right there. Ooh, it does not feel good. So yeah, don't over tighten stuff. There's nothing on this car should be that tight, any automobile. So yeah. All right, Connor, we're already here. All we got to do is pull the pins out of the motor mount, get this thing jacked up and get it separated from the transmission. This motor's ready to come out. So I say let's get it. I think we're going to have to move the cherry picker to the driver's side. So move this stuff out of the way. Slide the box out. Still not enough. So we have our engine out, and this is what puzzles me. So I looked up these numbers as we saw earlier, and this is a 75 engine. Well, when they first started making small block Chevys till like 1979, your dipstick is on this side. So we have the hole here, and I don't know, unless they filled it full of something or whatever, I don't know how that's not been blowing oil out. But then over here on the passenger side, look at that. It almost looks like somebody took that chunk and welded it on there. And then it's got some like epoxy crud, which that could be factory, but I don't know why it's on the passenger side if the number says it is an older engine. And then we got a 3970010, which is your number for the small block Chevy 350s. So I don't know. Kind of weird. We got a bunch of rat turds right there. Kind of weird, but now we're gonna put it on the stand and then start doing some inspection. All right, so as we're sitting here inspecting it, I reached over and grabbed on this pulley and gave it a turn. I'm gonna give you guys 10 seconds to kind of look here with me and see if you see anything that could be damaged or not right, let's just say that. Now look at that gap in between there. So, all right, now I have you guys look at, and we're looking at the harmonic balancer. Look at the gap between the timing cover and that balancer. Looks to me like a problem. What about you guys? So that's on a good small block, and this is on one. So I think what's happened is, yeah, this thing has probably been ran out of oil and the thrust washer is eat up, and I bet that crankshaft is walking back and forth, and I think it's walked back that way. Because this thing turns, but it is tight. So I think we're going to turn it upside down and pull the pan off, and we're going to see probably all we need to see. So we've rolled it over. Connor's taking the oil pan off. We're going to inspect and see what's going on. I'm pretty sure the crank is eating in this thing. Just my general idea. We don't know if we'll take it off, but it's too tight. I can't turn it by hand, and usually a good small block Chevy with the plugs out of it, you could almost turn it over by hand. So I don't, it's not looking good for this motor, but that's okay. I knew that. The owners told me that, and I was totally fine with it because it's a pretty rad car. So one more bolt, let's take it off. Okay, so now what you're gonna do is just find you a corner, drive that under there, and you're gonna just pry that off.
Gotcha.
Get your angle a little bit more flat, that way it drives under there.
Okay.
Go ahead. There you go. Now give it the pry. Alright. Alright, pry that dude on off there. Usually you can tell I've got that dead blow hammer. You can just pop the top of it after that. No, keep going. You good. When you're dealing with a junk motor, I don't think there's a wrong way to do it. Now, lift that sucker up off there. Oh, yeah, let's look in the pan. Yeah, it's not looking good. That's some sludge. And there's the pickup screen. I can't really see anything right now. I mean, it doesn't look terrible, but for some reason, the harmonic balancer's dug a groove. Where's your pry bar at? It's dug a groove in that. So take it between this counterweight on the crank and that main cap and pry it and see what it does. Okay.
Good to drive that.
Yeah, just to see what it does. Because it's already driven back as far as it'll go. Now come up here. Let me try to find another throw. Drive it in there. You wouldn't want to do this on a good motor. But take it. So go ahead and unscrew those all the way out by hand.
Put the neck right there.
Yeah. And when you're putting this together, every one of these fasteners, rods, mains, whatever, you should be able to put it together and be able to tighten the bolt down with your fingers all the way. Shouldn't be any resistance. All right, leave it in there. Now do your other one. Okay. Because you want to leave the bolt in the same hole. And then also on these mains, you can put them on backwards, and that's not good. They got arrows on it. So if you take this off, it has to go back on this spot. If you take this one, it has to go back on that spot. If you mix them up, they'll have to be rebored. But go ahead, you got those off, and then let's take. So peck on it from the side and loosen it up. Okay, now pick that whole main cap up. It'll come up. It just kind of presses in those edges. Okay, now flip it around. Make sure the bolts don't fall out. That bearing is pretty. I figured I see some copper on it, but it didn't look terrible, but it's pretty wiped off. That doesn't look bad, actually. Take that rag and wipe that bearing. I don't know. Oh, it's right here. It should be showing some copper, I would think. It's just actually just taking the coating off of it. All right, so Connor pulled the front pulley off. That's what is wrong with the balancer. I'm starting to really think there may not be as much wrong with this motor as what I thought. I can put those mains back on. I'll pull them back off and clean them, of course. But yeah, I mean, this thing's not looking bad. That could have been all that was wrong with it in the first place, because that would make a lot of noise that would make you want to stop driving it. So yeah, we'll pull that off and we'll so Connor got the harmonic balancer off and it's definitely grooved that out. It didn't ruin the cover. It looks like it's kind of getting through right there. But we'll pull the water pump off. I don't know if there's much wrong with this thing, because I bet this thing will spin pretty easy. Well, I don't know, it's still pretty tight. These bearings don't look bad for having the crank walking like I thought it was doing. So you still got a lot of the white coating left on it. Can you believe it? I hadn't even had this a week yet. I got it Thursday night of last week. It's Tuesday. I got an engine out of it, like crazy.
Looks like new jug of oil right there.
it's probably new in about 1988. So this was in the green K5 when I got it. Brand new, never used. So you know this has got to be some pretty good stuff. Put a little bit of oil on that bearing, just a bit on that seal. So you know it's going to work. So yeah, I think I'm going to put this back together, Matt. We're going to flip it over and clean the rat turds out of the intake manifold. But I think I'm going to try to put this back together and start it because I've got gaskets.
How did it get stuff down on the motor?
The distributor's been out of it. Like when I went over there, the hood was off. Like it was in a super nice garage, but the hood was off and he started like taking stuff off the motor to pull the engine. And well, the distributor was out. Well, I put it back in the hole because it was pouring. And I was like, well, with the hood on and all that and the distributor in it, won't get water in it.
Yeah.
Because I knew I was going to check the motor out. And then, yeah. So, and then I looked in it after we got it out and it had leaves and some rat turds. And I was like, man, I better check that.
That's a good thing you pulled it then.
Yeah. So, and I'm gonna try to meet because all I've got is those RPM intakes, and like those don't work on most cars with the factory hood. And that's what sucks. You can't, you know, you either got to have a super low intake manifold or Lsswap it with the car intake because the hood will not shut with any kind of like high-rise manifold. And what sucks, that wiring manifold that's on that is one of the main ones for the second-gen Camaros for the hood to shut. But it's in that now, you know, which is fine. We're not gonna pull an intake manifold just to have it, but I'm gonna meet somebody off Marketplace and get a performer tomorrow. Because I think I'm gonna go ahead and, my plan is to switch it and put an Edelbrock carburetor on it, and it's got that electronic style ECU controlled distributor, and I'm gonna get rid of that too. So
Back to the basics.
back to the basics, man. It's a 75.
What are you torquing it to?
I'm doing 70 with my 1940s torque wrench. Yeah, I don't understand this thing. I talked about it earlier, but so this is 70s engine, and from when they started making small block Chevys to 79, it was a driver's side dipstick. Well, it's got the driver's side hole in it. They've put this thing together and left that hole open. I have not done anything to it. So what they did, from 81 on up, it's a passenger side dipstick. They have welded this piece on the block and put a dipstick for a passenger side, and then I would say this is probably the original oil pan to the car because it's a passenger dipstick, because 8081 would have the passenger side dipstick. But why did they go through all that trouble when they could have just put the dipstick on the driver's side and used a early pan on it? I don't know. You know what's crazy though, and I was thinking earlier, is like I had one of these when I was 20, and now I got one again when I'm 40. Isn't that crazy? I'm not 40 yet.
So you're going to sell this one, and then when you're 60, buy another
Yeah,
one?
when I'm 60, get another one that pays like 10 times the cost. Yeah, I got. Yeah, this right here is one of my favorite tools I've gotten.
How's it work?
Well, instead of the regular harmonic balancer bolt that only threads like not even a third of the way in here, because it's really just to kind of hold that on after it presses, but this thing threads all the way into the crank. So I just always like to take and put this on here because you thread it all the way in and tighten it up. And I showed this on the video for when I was putting the stuff back on the Blazer. You tighten that up and get it tight. Now it's seated all the way in the crank. Now this thing, you tighten it up and it presses your damper on. But what I like to do is, like, instead of trying to twist on that bolt all the time, I've done a crescent where you bind it against the keyway, you can turn it. But since I bought this is the best way I like to do it now.
Keep from stripping that crank out.
And also, I've done this before where I've took a wood block and pounded that on there, and it's all that pressure is going across your bearings and hitting that thrust washer. And like, I have never had any problems with it, but I'm sure it's keeping good. So I just bought the right tool, and I think it's like $80 or something.
That's worth it.
Yeah. But as long as the threads aren't previously damaged, this should turn it. But still, this motor is still too tight. See what I mean? This motor is very, very tight. That's why I want to take these covers, pull this intake and see, because it's still too tight.
Let's pull it off there.
It's pretty clean inside, not bad. Ah, look right there, Matt. That's the biggest problem of any of the 70s is the 882 cylinder head. Let me tell you what that's going to get you. That is a 76cc chamber on top of a flat top piston, and not all the way flat top. That is 8-2-to-1 compression.
Boo!
That is, yeah, it's not going to work. And if this turns out to work okay, I'm going to do what a lot of people says is not going to work. That has worked for me a long time. It works for the circle track guys. We're going to put some 305 heads on this. We're going to go from a 76cc chamber to a 58. And yes, it's got smaller valves, but it moves air plenty good now. So yeah, these, I'm not even going to use these anyways.
Trash.
Yeah, so we might as well take them off.
Okay.
Yeah, this is.
Ooh.
Oh yeah. Well, yeah, I'm sure glad we pulled that off.
Dude, there's plastic down in there.
That's what I'm saying. Isn't that crazy?
Okay, got the head off.
Got the look at that crosshatch still in there, man. Yeah, this motor doesn't have any miles on it. Look at this side over here. Just
Wow.
got some carbon. That's it. If we
Some
can just
leaves.
get the carbon, some leaves, man. That's what you want to see. See, that's the problem right there is these bathtub-looking 882s. Even though it's got 194, 150s, it doesn't matter till you get up over. You know, it's not building any cylinder pressure. Yeah, look at that crud, dude.
Yeah.
But up here's where it stopped up. That's what I don't understand.
It was on both ends.
Yeah, that's what's.
All right, both heads off. Will it spin?
Kind of worried, man. Dude, it's still tight. What in the hell? I don't know, man. That's awfully tight still. It's real tight, man. I don't know. So, I've numbered all the lifters, put them in a box. There's a stock camshaft, there's no numbers on it. No numbers on the front that I saw. But I'm gonna save it because our camshafts now for flat tappets are junk. Yeah, there's no numbers on that part either. So I'm gonna save this one. Here's some noise, like something's creaking. And here's something. I don't know, it's awfully tight, man. Yeah, that's too much. I think probably gonna find it in the rods. If I'm guessing, I don't know. Stuck in it. Yep. Yeah, the wrist pin's locked up in it. So that could be out of oil and it locked it up. Look at that.
Mm-hmm.
No wonder the thing wouldn't turn.
Try it now.
Ooh, look at that. Piston's runt.
Ooh.
Broke ring. No, that's not broke, but yeah. So, yep. We got a junk motor, guys. Well, now let's test it and see how easy it spins. Oh, it's every one of them, I bet. But it's got easier. But it's in there ready to go. So, as you can see, we have the neighbor's Maytag here. And we've got the lowly 350.
Brand new freeze plugs.
Brand new freeze plugs.
Or at least that's what
Probably
they look
actually
like.
decent bearings in the crank, but the pistons are chewed up and the wrist pin, as you've seen, was stuck. So For me, it's junk. It could be bored over. On to the next. Let's show them what we got over here.
Okay.
So I happen to have another small block Chevy right here. Now we got to pick it up and get it over that hump. I don't know how I did that, but get under here with the black widows and stuff over. I think I might use something private. Damn.
We're getting old, man.
There we go.
You got it.
So now just push this over here. That looks pretty good.
Yeah.
All right. So now what we have, these aren't the OG 305s that I had on that one motor, but I bought another set in Oklahoma City a while back that supposedly pre-machined. Now I want to show you guys something. And this is why I like to use these. These have 58cc chambers, 184, 150 valves. You can see they got quite a, but they have small combustion chambers.
Hey, let's compare them. Grab one.
Good idea.
Oh God, I can see him from here.
Yeah, there's quite a difference. So, stand this one up on end. Stand this one up on end. Now, I learned this out of that David Vizier, How to Build a Small Block Chevy, and this exactly number. It's 1402-2801. So
Where's that at?
right there.
It's right there in the middle.
And this is like the high output 305 head. So he's saying there is 40 foot-pounds of torque in the mid-range and low range difference between these 76cc chambers and these heart-shaped 58s. Just the combustion chamber shape.
Yeah,
now this
look
has
at
got
the
bigger
size.
valves. This is 194, 150. This is 184, 150. And this head will run to 5,000 RPMs and make good power. Like that other set of heads, it's got the Z28 springs I had. Those, and I ran 100 shot on that all the time with a flat top piston and everything. So that's why I throw these away. This is my second set. I get every one of these heads I can get. Because like I said, for under 400 horsepower and for a budget, it's a good cylinder head. Okay, so let me see here. Put some PDs on it.
Get a comparison.
Yeah. Yeah, this thing ain't been turned. It's been under there for a couple years. I'm running out of it.
We wasted all of it on that trash motor.
Yeah, I know. So when you go to 5/8, like I said, this motor hasn't turned in at least a couple of years. There you go. See, that's what it means you're supposed to turn like.
Yeah, that's way
You
different.
still got the cam and lifters and everything in it, so. But yeah, those wrist pins are stuck on that other one. So there's our donor, guys. Let's see, because it's going to take $500 to $1,000 to buy into the engine. I don't think I'll have that much in it because I've got gaskets. I've got all the gaskets for it. Yeah, I just don't see it costing that much.
Yep.
Maybe $500. I don't know. We'll see. It's about all I want to invest in it.
Yeah. And get her back on the road though.
Yeah. We'll start it on the floor and see how it does. Yeah, even this camshaft. Well, these lifters are a little stuck in this one. Yeah, we'll get it tore down tomorrow. See what we got. What do you think, kiddo? Ah. So yeah, not even 1 week later. No small block, that's where it's gonna go. What's up? Oh yeah, I'll hold that all right. I'll eat it. All right, we gotta go.